What time is it?
It's market stats time. I know this stuff is really exciting for y'all.
But you know what? I think it's important because people always ask what is going on in the market. And by doing this, we can refer to it and it's informative. And I think it's good. I think people want to know what's going on in the
It's
marketplace.
especially important for people that are thinking of buying or selling now.
Once again, I haven't looked. I only can tell you what I feel day to day in the market. And that is there's some definite challenges. I don't know. Ever since the peak of what would you consider the peak?
The peak was probably COVID was 2020, right? So probably
Yes.
2022, maybe 2021.
Ever since then, I feel like it's just been a big challenge for a lot of reasons. Those are the dogs. They want to come in here.
Yeah, I hate markets like this where you have this huge run up because we always, whenever you outstrip affordability, we seem to always pull back, and it's a real tough. On a selfish level, as a realtor, it's very difficult because we have to constantly have conversations about why someone's property is not worth what they think it's worth. And it's getting the buyer and the seller on the same page in a market that's moving is very difficult for a realtor, and that's also hard for the buyer and the seller too, because the seller thinks that their property is worth a certain number, and the reality is the buyer's not willing to pay that, then it's not worth it. I mean, it's really just that simple.
And I'm seeing some unique things with unique properties. Like, for example, I've seen it on Longboat Key and I've seen it on Minnesota Key, where let's say you have a home and an extra parcel of land where the seller initially tried to sell the home and the land as one bigger property. And they've had a difficult time doing it as a combo situation and instead switched gears and took the parcel out to sell that separately so that they could at least facilitate a sale on the house. And I also have started to see that on Minnesota Key. And I think that's smart because it's giving the buyers more options and diversifying that portfolio, so to speak, to.
So those are really unique situations that
Right.
don't apply to everyone.
No, but it's something different.
It muddies the water quite a bit when you start adding in, several different properties and stuff like that. I think what she said was good and important, but so what are we going to do? We're going to go over it's the February 2026 stats for single family homes in Sarasota County.
Right, but before we do that, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
The reason I brought that up is because sellers need to get creative. If they're sick of hearing us say stop, to lower the price, if they're tired of hearing that, there are creative ways to help facilitate it, like splitting up a property that's unique or having other options other than just, hey, knock the price down, because of course it'll sell then. So that's why
I mentioned. If you
don't
have that situation and you just have one single family home or condo, how can you get creative? Where can you get creative other than price? Condition?
Well, it's in the staging, in virtual photography, maybe making it accessible to show and not having limitations. I mean, we do a lot of Airbnb, high frequency, high turnover rental properties here that are even more challenging. We're accustomed to that, and we understand like a seller, they don't want to bother the guests and then have a bad review or whatever. So those are a little different too. I've got one like that right now that's like I have very limited option in showing it. So it's in an already challenging market, it's making it harder for me to sell. And the seller understands that it's going to take longer. Like,
yeah, it's not always about price. It's a lot of the time if that's the problem, but we do see situations where something is priced very competitively and still not selling, and it could just be accessibility. It could be
fees. Maybe the fees are high. That's something you can't control.
Yeah, CDD fees can turn people off. The condition, it shows poorly, it shows whatever, there's something wrong other than price. That does happen. I will say that's kind of rare, let's be honest. Because if you hire a good realtor, a lot of times all that stuff is taken care of, in the sense like, okay, well, you prepare the property well, you get good photography, you you make it accessible, all those other things other than price.
First impressions matter, control the controllables. I mean, other than that, I don't know, doing more open houses. Is that what's going to really push someone over the edge? I know what you're going to say.
I mean, we sell stuff at open houses. I mean, it's certainly getting people in the door is really our job, and you know, that's one way to certainly do it. It doesn't hurt. Let's put it that way.
Well, I will say this, like, obviously we at CORCORAN, at the CORCORAN Dwellings downtown Sarasota office, myself personally, my brand, everything that I do is high touch, high end, first class. Like, I don't skimp on the photography. I don't skimp on the materials, the marketing. Okay. But other than that, there's no magical unicorn thing that I'm going to say or publication that it's going to go in that's magically going to procure, right? We're going to have it as many places all around the world and locally and otherwise that we possibly can. But if you're $200,000 too high, buyers are going to be scared to even come, or say, like, you know, a lot of them too, they're just watching these prices go down. And that's been an issue also.
We've been doing this a long time, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but have you ever heard anyone say, you know, I really like this house. It really matches everything I need. It checks all my boxes, but you don't have a really cool brochure. So I just can't buy it. I can't buy it for that reason. So you'll have sellers that will, you know, and I get it. It's an emotional process to sell a house. We get it. This is what we do. But when you start saying, well, you haven't done enough open houses, your brochures stink, they come up with every other scenario other than price. That's generally not a good position to be in. A lot of times, I think we have to dumb it down to the point where the price has to be, someone has to be willing to pay that price. And that price is usually based on other similar properties and what they're selling for in this market. Okay. If you have 3 other similar houses that have sold in the last 30 days for X, it's probably worth that. And you can make every argument in the world about how you have better granite or you whatever, you know.
And we'll do everything that we can to overcome the objections in any way that I possibly can. And that's why showing up is really important, because you can overcome them right at the second that they ask the question, or if not, get back to them right away, read the room. I will say too, that this is, I know, another frustrating thing for sellers is you could be priced right now. And then next week, the next neighbor is really like way more motivated, and it's literally the same exact house or really comparable, and they really undercut. And like, there's not much an agent can do. There's no magical potion to wave around the house, unfortunately, that you really have to listen to the pendings, like what's going pending, what's not. I mean, I interviewed for a listing where in a neighborhood there's 33 listings.
Yeah.
0 pending.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? 0 pending.
I was like, it's about a quarter of the market, right? Yeah.
That is very concerning. So we're going to be the 34th, and then we're going to sit, and it's just like, you just have to be realistic. Maybe it's not the right time to sell. I mean, it might not be the right time to sell, but guess what? What is next year going to be better? We don't know. Will it be worse? We don't know.
It's speculation. One thing that we've noticed with certain people, realtors are messengers of the market, and we have to try to stay on top of market stats, and that's why we do these videos. Yeah. And there's a misconception out there that certain realtors have the ability to get buyers to overpay. Like if a community is selling for $500,000, let's say, I'm going to get this one realtor because they promise they're going to get me $600,000 or $700,000. There is nothing a realtor can do to find. We don't have a pool of buyers that we hide from everyone that says these guys are willing.
I wish we just call them
more than everyone else. It just doesn't exist, and I think that sometimes the general public has the misconception that some realtors have the ability to get people to overpay over the market. You know. Well, when you're hiring a realtor, I really think it's important to have someone that understands what's going on in the market full time, preferably does this every single day. It's not a side gig.
Right, and that's connected. I mean, we were just talking earlier off camera about the referral networks that we have around the country and really around the world. We're connected around the world. And if they know you and they know that you're active, they're going to refer you buyers for your market or sellers. And we're going to be able to put the parties together. And I think that to us, I mean, a referral from a realtor, a referral from a friend or past client, of course, too, but referral from a realtor is like gold and should be treated as such. And we certainly do treat those as gold, and they will be very well taken care of, just like any other referral. But it's something to point out that when you've been around a lot, you're part of these national and international networks. I think that speaks volumes to like, those are your go-to people that you're going to connect with, and they know I'm the Sarasota person or whatever from.
And we've gotten quite a few referrals in the last 30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, she's absolutely right. And it does, yeah, obviously hire an agent that has some connections. I think that's super important.
I think it could be one thing that sets that agent over the top in terms of procuring a sale maybe faster in that way, potentially. When all things else, you know, everything else is the same. But do you want to talk about stats or?
Sure.
Go.
Yeah. I think, you know, we're on a market when a market drops, like the prices have dropped like they have, buyers are very sensitive they do not want to overpay. In 21, 21, and 22, people were, you know, the COVID refugees were coming here and driving prices up, and they just had to have a house. We were writing offers every single day, and they had to get a house, and obviously the prices went up. Now prices have fallen, and people are very sensitive about overpaying. They don't want to overpay. They're willing to buy, but they want to feel pretty secure that they're not going to lose money. It seemed like 3-4 years ago they didn't want to lose money. They just didn't realize what was happening.
Well, and there are cases where there are multiple offers. I just had one in the 500 range, and I had 3 offers in the same day. We went under contract within 24 hours, and we had a backup that was a really good backup. And I've heard other stories like that. They're few and far between, but when a seller prices at $1 under appraised value, holy cannolis, it's a beautiful thing. Let me just tell you. And they're excited. I'm excited. Everybody's happy. The buyer's exuberant because they won out on the deal, and we're past inspections now, so I can talk about it. It's not closed yet, but like, that's a beautiful thing in a market that has a gluttonous amount, well, actually maybe not a gluttonous amount of inventory.
Another thing that's what's interesting is we go over these stats, and it's a county-wide thing, but there are pockets where prices have dropped tremendously, okay? But there are also pockets like Bird Key, for example. I've got an active buyer looking at Bird Key, and prices, when you compare, say, 22 prices to 25, 26 prices, they didn't really drop.
And you were out on Casey showing, and there wasn't anything pending 3 to 5 million or something like that.
It was here.
It was here, yeah.
It was 34236. If you look at single family homes, there's not a lot of stuff pending. But you got to remember, the luxury market is a bit different in the sense, like, sellers generally don't have to sell. They're selling because they want to, not because they have to. Whereas other neighborhoods, it might be the opposite. And buyers, a lot of times, it's a third, fourth house, so they don't have to buy. So getting those two people on the same page in terms of prices is often quite challenging. So the prices on Bird Key, for example, haven't dropped. So there is that instance where prices,
hold their value.
Yeah, they hold their value. They hold their value well. Whereas other communities where they just, there's just tons of them for sale now. And yeah, I mean.
The problem markets, I find, because Bird Key is very niche, every home is really unique and not like their neighbor pretty much. And it's on the water.
It's
so it's different.
Widget,
Right. It's not. Now, I hate to compare to Lakewood Ranch, guys. No offense to Lakewood Ranch peeps, but like, there are a lot of homes that are alike in that neighborhood. So that is a challenge when it comes time to resale. If you're less than 5 years, especially with all that new construction, you're going to be competing against the builder versus a Bird Key or a Longboat Key.
100%.
People want what nobody else has, which those are super unique.
If you let's take Lakewood Ranch, for example. If you can build a neighborhood that's very similar to one just down the street, And that builder is in business to make money, and that builder is going to drop their prices. Or the way builders drop their prices is through incentives. They'll buy down your mortgage, or they'll give you an extra
Credits
tile,
for closing.
They'll say, we're going to give you $35,000 in credits just to keep those prices the same. But the reality is that buyer is paying less than this other guy. So for a resale to compete with a builder is very tough because they're in the business to make sales and they're not emotional at all. Okay. Home sellers, resales, they tend to get more emotional, so they'll have an elevated price and just pray.
And they don't have the deep pockets. Maybe they put in a pool and they're thinking, if I spend $150,000 on a new pool, I'm going to get that 150 back. That's not how it works.
Yeah,
it's just the market conditions at the time is what you're competing against.
So real quick, all right. So actually, really good news. Single family homes, Sarasota County, closed sales February to February, year over year, up 6%, which is good. Month supply of inventory down 26.5%.
That's amazing.
Inventories are down, sales are up. Okay. Let's see. Median sales price down only 5%. Not too bad. It seems like we're bottoming in terms of prices. We're not seeing huge, we were seeing before even bigger price drops. So the months will go up 2%, down 2%, down 5%, up. So it seems like we're starting to, we've bottomed, and some people think we've bottomed, but Sarasota County is very big. You gotta remember, we go all the way down to Northport,
which is a totally different market than Sarasota.
So you're smushing a lot of houses together.
Now, not that we're going to get into the Manatee stats, but very briefly, Manatee County was doing better than us like over the last, I think, 12 months or 6 months. Now it's the reverse. Now they have a lot more inventory, don't they?
Well, their month supply of inventory was only down 2%.
Oh, okay.
Their closed sales were actually up 10%, even more than Sarasota. Now, you remember Manatee County, most of the Lakewood Ranch houses are in Manatee County, so that's why these stats probably a little skewed just for Lakewood Ranch. But Lakewood Ranch is in Manatee County. Median time to contract is up 41%.
65 days is not bad though.
Very good.
It's really we see people we know. But no, what I was going to remember, it was because I just went on that listing appointment and it was Manatee condos. It was a townhouse, and in that market, Manatee condos is at 7.4 months. So that's a definitive buyer's market. And in a neighborhood that has 33 listings, you're entering into a market, really niche neighborhood market that is a buyer's market.
Yeah. When you have a quarter of your community for sale, the buyers are running the show. That's just the way it is. So we got Sarasota. Okay, so Sarasota County condos.
Okay.
Closed sales up 36%. That's awesome. That's really good. Closed sales up 36% for condos in Sarasota County. Month supply of inventory down 5.5%.
But it's still 8.6 months of inventory. So I have a couple listings downtown and it's been a challenge to sell, and they're very picky on the view and the this and that condition, obviously price. So there's a ton of options. There's a gluttonous amount of options at 8.6.
Yeah,
months.
So there's 8.6 months of inventory, which tends to be more of a buyer's market. They say 6 months is more balanced. And anything above that is a buyer's market. Anything below that's a seller's market. So
we know why. We've talked about it. It's condos are just more volatile over time. It's not a bad investment. Listen, if you want to lock the key and travel or go to another part of the country, like it's a beautiful thing. I know what you're getting into as far as fees and the budget and reserves and stuff. That's obviously all part of your due diligence, which we help you with.
Condos are took a big hit a lot because of the insurance problems and the milestones with the seaside falling down on the other coast. So, there were a lot of new laws that made condos less attractive. So that's why prices have fallen quite a bit on condos.
But it's like gold and silver's down. It's a good time to buy, just like real estate. When it's down, buy. Yeah. I mean, we kind of thought the bottom was last August 2025.
You can make an argument that the bottom was in the third or fourth quarter of 2025. Sure, And again, we're smushing a lot of properties together in a county. You've got to look at the individual community, like the one she just mentioned in Bradenton. Regardless of what's happening in Manatee County, that community is in a buyer's market, extreme buyer's market, based purely on the fact that a quarter of what's available or what's there is for sale. You go to any building and you say, all right, 25%, 1 out of 4 is for sale, you immediately have a problem.
I mean, it's a sprawling neighborhood without telling where it is. And there's condos and there's townhomes and there's a couple of sporadic homes in there. But for a small geographic space, it's not necessarily the 33 active. It's the fact that there's 0 pending. Normally, if we see that many active, we'll see like 10, 15 pending. And then it's like, oh, okay, there's movement. It's not stagnant. So it begs the question for a buyer, like, is there something in the neighborhood that's going on wrong? Because that was what I asked, is like, is the HOA in a lawsuit? We don't know. Are the roofs falling in? Like, you just think that kind of the worst case scenarios. And I did ask those questions, and it's just, these are coming in waves. And right now it's a wave of just active. So that's not uncommon in real estate, though. Some neighborhoods or condo communities, there'll be like a wave of 10 that just sit, and then all of a sudden there's a pending, and then another one, and then it kind of moves like that sometimes.
It's important to have a realtor that can dive into MLS and really get granular with the particular neighborhood you're in, because that's the most important thing. I mean, the overall market is good. The old saying, all boats rise and lower with the tide, I believe. But you have to still break it on down to the individual community and see what's going on in there. And that's where a good realtor can actually can be handy.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it might not be the best time for you to sell. If you're feeling like there's too much competition, you really don't have to sell. And by the way, we get most of our sellers that say we don't have to sell. That is a very common line that we hear, and we understand this is a second home market. We understand that. So it might not be the right time.
And honestly, with single family homes in Sarasota, I went from 6.8 months down to 5 months.
Not bad.
A lot of that is really just sellers saying, I'm taking it off the market.
And waiting.
It wasn't necessarily they sold. It was, I'm just going to take it off because I realize my value is, the value of my house is not what I thought it was. So
or maybe they're coming back in the fall, or
they're just going to keep it.
Maybe they're doing improvements and kind of seeing what's happening with this. There's all kinds of economic things happening, political things, the war, the tariffs, the this, the that. Like, let's just end it on a good note, because DeSantis, my man,
property taxes.
He's trying to get the homestead property tax waived, which they're voting in November. So we're just kind of waiting and seeing on some of these.
We should do another video on that. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out, because if that does happen, I can see a lot of people moving to Florida. I think that'll increase demand pretty good.
I think at the end of the day, nothing moves the market exponentially. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. The market's slow.
This is COVID.
Just like the stock market. I mean, over time it grows. I think, and a lot of these people that own property here have the patience and the time, barring some sort of, family event or medical issue, of course. Things happen, but
so to end it, I think the market is actually decent. It's pretty good. The sales are up, inventories are down, sellers are taking their stuff off the market that didn't belong on the market because their prices were too unrealistic. It makes for a healthier market. So we're improving, I think, is probably the best way to say.
And we've got a Waldorf Astoria coming. Andrew and I did a video about comparing the Ritz-Carlton Bayfront to the Waldorf. I mean, this is kind of exciting stuff. So check out that video in the playlist about the Waldorf. There's a $30 million penthouse for sale.
It'll be interesting to see if that sells. If it does, it really increases this whole area. If you get a $30 million condo sale,
I mean, that's just a normal day in Palm Beach. But here. Yeah. It's Sarasota, right? Yeah. So it's a different market. But anyway, if you have any questions about the market, what your property is worth, I work a very wide area from Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte counties. I've got properties on Minnesota and Englewood, all the way up to Anna Maria, Lakewood Ranch, new construction, vacant land. You guys, you name it. I've got some great inventory coming up too. Coming soon. It's not on the market yet, so you have to ask me. What do you got?
I'm good.
Hope you enjoy that. Give me a call if you have any questions. 941-544-7690.